Welcome back to the garage, or if you're new to the channel and this is the first video of mine that you've seen, welcome to the garage. My name is Zane. In today's video, it's finally time to get a little bit more work done on the Cummins Swap Project Truck. Now, if you're not familiar with this project, I will leave the previous video's link in the video description below, the last video that I've done on this project, so you can kind of get caught up to speed. But it's a 1984 Dodge 4-door long bed 2-wheel drive pickup that I picked up about 8 months ago from a very nice older gentleman in Union, Missouri. Now, this older gentleman used this truck for quite a few years for his business, but over the last 4 or 5 years it just kind of sat next to his house, and I was just lucky enough one day to spot it, ask if it was for sale. Long story short, I brought the truck home. Now, the truck originally had a 360 with an automatic transmission behind it, but it didn't matter to me if it even ran or anything, because I always kind of had this in mind to stuff down in there. Now, this is a VE, or a rotary pump, 12-valve engine out of a 1993 Dodge 1-ton dually. Now, this project is something that I'm putting together. I want to take this truck, stretch the frame, and actually put a wedge bed on it. Now, if you're not familiar with what a wedge bed is, I'll insert a picture right about here or so and show you what a wedge bed truck looks like. It's just something that I want to use to go maybe further out in the Missouri area and look for some projects and maybe bring them home. Now, I've already done quite a few videos on this truck, and I got a new part in the box that's going to solve a very common problem on these engines. But before I do that, I want to take you outside and show you some of the work that I got done the other day when the weather was really nice. Now, it's raining today. I'm trying to film some stuff in the garage, so kind of bear with me if you will. But anyhow, I got some stuff done on this project, and you'll kind of also see in the video why it was so important to get that forklift up and running. I really needed it for this project, and there's a lot of other projects that I can use it on around the place. So one thing that I want to mention in this video before it goes any further, I know people don't like music in the video, but the weather was very nice outside. I had my radio set up and I was playing music. YouTube doesn't like that, and I don't blame them. It's copyrighted music, so I will have to add music over this video. I know some people don't like it, but hopefully you can still sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now there's quite a few people out there that are probably watching this video that already understand how reliable these engines are. But for those of you out there that don't have an idea, let me fill you in on a few things about these. Now, if you change the oil in them regularly, you don't turn them up too much, add too much fuel to them, and you keep your foot out of it, these engines are almost consistently capable of 400,000 to 500,000 miles without any major problems. Now, one thing that makes these extremely reliable over some of the other diesel engines of this year, this engine has a factory grid heater in it that preheats your fuel. So in the wintertime, as long as you give this a little bit of time to warm up, cycling the key back and forth, 9 times out of 10 this will start and give you no problems. Now, there's not really any injector problems or injection pump problems with this older mechanical engine. Now when you get to the 24 valve in the newer trucks, that's a whole other ball game. So they're not as reliable. They are still reliable, but not as reliable as this old mechanical engine. Now one of the major problems that happens with these, you will see these older 12 valve engines have this one piece cast iron exhaust manifold. Now with it being one piece, there's no room for expansion whenever this heat cycles. This builds up a tremendous amount of heat being bolted to the side of the cylinder head, and this thing will actually shrink over time. And it's a very common problem to pop the hood on one of these older first-gen trucks and see this either broken in between, or you can actually see the tops of these bolt holes where they bolt to the head broken off. And in extreme cases, you can actually see the top ear on this cylinder head break off. Now, if one of these ears break off of the top of the cylinder head, this can turn into a major problem for a few different reasons. Number one, with this ear being gone, there's no pressure being held on the top of the cylinder head from the exhaust manifold. You'll only have one bolt down here holding pressure at the bottom, so you will more than likely run into an exhaust leak in this area. Now, if you go to weld this back on yourself, you can run into a few major problems due to the fact that, number one, it's thin and very small area to try to weld back together. Number two, there's a threaded bolt hole that runs directly through the center. And number three, the biggest reason why this is a pain is the fact that this cylinder head is made out of cast iron, just like the engine block. Now, cast iron can be welded, but it's extremely difficult for an average Joe welder, much like myself, to try to weld back together. You're supposed to use a special welding rod for it, and I've actually heard stories of people heating up the area before it's welded. I've also heard of people peening, or taking a hammer and lightly tapping the area to try to relieve stress. Now, if you don't sink enough heat into this, this could just break right back off and the weld won't take. If you put too much heat into it, you can actually make the area brittle and basically impossible to try to weld back together in the future. Now, with this cylinder head being bolted between these ears, there's a lot of force when that heat cycles from it shrinking and expanding, and it just breaks these ears off. I've never seen that myself, but you can run into it with these engines. Now, how do you combat this? Well, what I've got down in the box right here will solve this problem once and for all.
What's in the box?
Alright, now what I picked up the other day for this project will solve this issue before it ever even turns into a problem. This is a diesel auto power 3-piece exhaust manifold for this engine. Now it has a ball and socket on this end and a ball and socket on this end, so it can actually flex and it can take the heat expansion of this engine without ever cracking. Now not only does it have the ball and socket on both sides, but this is also made out of ductile iron, not cast iron like the original exhaust manifold. Now ductile iron is actually infused with spherical graphite. Now see, I actually done my research before I turned the video on this time, but spherical graphite can actually move on a molecular level. I know that sounds like a lot of scientific talk right there, but basically this will move and expand with the heat cycle of this engine, and you will never have a crack out of this. Now not only does it have the ability to take the heat cycle of the engine, but you can see that this exhaust manifold is round compared to the more square exhaust manifold that came stock on this engine. Now you can tell a major difference from the stock one to the new aftermarket exhaust manifold. This one is rounded compared to the more square design of the stock one. Now the engine will flow a lot better, but this also means that the truck will get better fuel mileage as well. Alright, so just about the only thing that I need to do to this before I put it on the engine is I'm going to go ahead off camera and spray it down with some high temp spray paint. Now it's probably going to be a while before I get this engine in the truck and up and running, and I don't want it to flash rust in the meantime, so let me go ahead and spray this down off camera and I'll show you around outside with some other stuff that I got going on. Now the first thing I wanted to mention was the 1946 Willys Jeep. Now I've got quite a few questions on this project, and let's just say that the year 2020 was full of surprises. I had this Jeep in the garage trying to get it running, and certain circumstances, I don't really want to say the keywords here on YouTube, but made shipping kind of a nightmare. I know I waited 3 weeks to get the ignition for this Jeep, and the carburetor kit was close to that, so I'm making room in the garage as we speak to try to get some room to put this project back in there over the winter. Now mark my words, if this engine is capable of running, as in no broken connecting rod or spun bearing, this little Jeep will run before it leaves the garage this next time. Now the other thing that I wanted to talk about is right down here, so follow me. Now if you've seen some of the other videos, you'll realize that that cab was sitting in this general area up off the ground on some pallets, and it was basically sitting in the way of these other projects. Now I didn't want to move it around because the more I moved it, the more I risked a chance at damaging the cab. The forks on my Bobcat were not long enough to pick it up from the back like they are on my forklift, so I would have had to have got to this cab from the side, and that may have turned disastrous because I might have damaged one of those doors, and they're not exactly the easiest things to find. I just wanted to say that there is kind of a method to the madness. I know it's not really about getting that forklift up and going, it's what I can do with that forklift. Now the video that I done on it didn't get a lot of views, and I understand that because some things just aren't basically that interesting, so I just wanted to say there's a reason why I had to take some time and get that up and going, and it'll also help out with some of these other projects around here, getting them done and moving things around easily. That way I don't have to chain them up with my backhoe or risk damaging them with my Bobcat. Now it never seems to fail anymore, no matter what video I put out, whether it's working on an old truck, working on that forklift and getting it up and going, or restoring an old ratchet. It seems like the comment section is always filled with questions on the Project Atlas truck. Am I still going to work on it? Do I plan on doing anything differently to it? And yes, 100%, I still plan on working on this truck and doing this project. And I also just wanted to say a special thank you to everybody out there who subscribes and gives these videos thumbs up. It helps out a lot more than you would ever imagine here on YouTube. It really means a lot to me too that everybody that watches would like to take a special interest in some of these projects that I want to build. It really means a lot because whenever I put this project out here the first time, the first video that I done, I didn't really think it would amount to much, but it seems like I gained over 3,000 subscribers overnight when it comes to this project. So everybody likes this one. It's still going to get worked on. As we speak, I'm actually trying to clean up the area next to my garage so I can get this truck closer to it. Now you may be able to tell in the video there are some railroad tracks with a big gravel bank back here. So this truck is actually sitting on the furthest edge of my property. It's quite a ways away from the garage, so I need to get it closer so I can start tearing into it. Now, do I plan on doing things differently to this project? Oh yeah, but you're gonna have to wait for another video to see what I plan on doing differently to it. Now people like this, I gained a lot of subscribers over it, and I think whenever I tear into it, it's only gonna go up from there. Now it may make some people a little angry what I plan on changing, but I think it's gonna make a lot of people happy as well. And just like a good friend of mine, J.C. Smith, he told me something that really kind of stuck with me and made me want to do this project better and do this project to my liking. He said the best rollbacks aren't bought, they're built. Alright, now I've got all of the ports on the side of the cylinder head completely smooth and free of any kind of debris. I blew some air over the top of this to get rid of the dust, and I removed the paper towels out of the bores. Now, I have these stainless steel crush gaskets that go in between the cylinder head and the exhaust manifold. Now, not only do I have stainless steel crush gaskets, I also have stainless steel hardware to mount the exhaust manifold to the cylinder head. Now, these are stainless steel. The cylinder head is cast iron, so it is a very good idea to coat these pretty good with anti-seize in case you ever have to pull this exhaust manifold back off of this head. You won't want to have to worry about the threads getting pulled out of it or breaking one of these off in here. Now I must say that exhaust manifold is a thing of beauty. Now thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment or a question down below. Consider subscribing if this is the kind of content that you're into. And as always, just a friendly reminder that it doesn't matter if you're working on your project in a garage or in your driveway. What matters is that you go out there, you do the job yourself, and you learn more about your project, whatever that project may be. Now that this video is over, how about you go outside and work on something? My name is Zane, and I'll catch you next time.